In the last video, we left off with Mikey almost killing Takemichi before he tried to jump off a building. However, that's when, with some miracle, the two of them managed to time leap back to the past. We then see Takemichi running with all that he can as he wonders what the meaning of all of this is. He wonders what is happening and if this means that he time traveled, saying that it's not 12 years ago, but instead 10 years in the past, and that he is now a high schooler. Takemichi looks super confused, but that's when the Mizo Middle comes by and they ask him what he is doing here so early. Suddenly, someone grabs his head and he asks if he studied for the finals. Takemichi didn't recognize him at first. However, it's clearly the goat Hakkai, which, when Takemichi learns that, really shocks him. Everyone asks Takemichi what's wrong with him, but he just thinks that everyone's gotten a bit more mature. After that, he asks them where Chifuyu is, and apparently, he is in the social studies room, so Takemichi rushes there. Chifuyu tells him that he is being loud and asks him what's up, but Takemichi just starts to cry and is about to explain what happens, but he can barely get his words out. But still, Chifuyu gets the gist of it, and he says that Takemichi is from the future. However, he asks him how that is possible, and even Takemichi says that he has no idea, but that Mikey told him to help him. After that, we get to the Kanto Manji gang, where we see Koko standing on someone else, telling him to remember that Tokyo doesn't need any team other than them. Senju is also there, and adds in that the invincibility of their boss is picking up speed, and he sees him standing in a pit of beaten up guys, whom he has apparently fought all on his own. He then looks at his hand and says that Takemichi is here after all. Anyway, Chifuyu then tells Takemichi that if Mikey is the trigger, then it means that he won't be able to return to the future so easily anymore. This makes him just think about Mikey, so he asks Chifuyu what's going on with him right now. Chifuyu, however, is just silent, but that's when Yamagishi comes by and asks if he wants to know about the delinquents in the area. He starts by saying that it's been 2 years since Toman disbanded, and that the Tokyo power map has changed a lot. First, due to the disbandment of Toman, which controlled the Kanto region, Tokyo's delinquent world is in even more chaos. Whenever a team is formed and says, "I'm the one," they're crushed one after another, calling it a rivalry between bosses, and that they were plunged into the Tokyo Civil War era. However, that era was put to an end by the appearance of 3 titans, one from Minato Ward, who people say is unrivaled, and they are called Rokuhara Tandai, with South Terano as their leader, one from Brahman, the mysterious hooligans, who are based in Shinjuku Ward, who people say is the strongest, with Senju Kawaragi as their leader, and from Kanto Manji, based in Shibuya Ward, who say that they're invincible, and they have Mikey as the general. Yamagishi explains that Tokyo is currently in a 3-way state of equilibrium between these 3 teams, and has entered the Three Deities era. Takemichi is just in shock that there are more people on Mikey's level. He then starts to wonder what all of this means, as if Mikey was immediately going to create that sort of team, then why did he disband Toman? However, it then clicks as he remembers the video of him saying that he doesn't want the others to get involved, and Takemichi thinks that it's the reason for this new team. Chifuyu then calls out for him and says that he immediately gets tunnel vision and says that there might be a lot of things that he is talking about Mikey, but firstly, isn't there someone that he has to make up with? And Takemichi just doesn't understand what he means. However, we then see him bowing towards Hina and apologizing. He starts to cry as he says that he bailed on their wedding and died. However, he is saying that in front of her school, so it's a bit awkward, but she then realizes that it's Takemichi from the future. After that, they walk a bit away, and Takemichi says that he has figured it out, and that in the end, it won't be over until he is able to save Mikey. Hina says yeah, but asks him what would happen if he is wrong about that choice, and ends up creating the worst possible future as a result. However, she then smiles and says that even then, she will be there to support him. Takemichi looks at her in awe before thanking her and saying that he will take down Mikey. After that, we get to the school, where Takemichi asks Chifuyu what he should do to take down Mikey. Chifuyu tells him to not go around talking crazy, but Takemichi says that he is serious. Chifuyu then stops and says that either way, they need to get the guys together, as Toman doesn't exist anymore, and that they need some fighting power on their end to take on Mikey's gang. Takemichi says that he understands, and then suddenly, Hakkai appears behind them and asks them if they are talking about something interesting. Takemichi, however, says that it's nothing, as he thinks that he can't tell him about the current situation. Hakkai then asks them if they are free now and to come with him. Takemichi just says that they are busy, but they still get dragged along. After that, they go to Pachin, who looks to be living the life as he tells Takemichi that it's been a while. Takemichi looks super happy seeing him, even though he didn't recognize him at first, but he then asks him if he got released. We then see Mitsuya, who asks him what sort of joke that is, as that's all old news. But Mitsuya isn't the only one who is there, as we also see Ryohei, who asks if Takemichi is also looking for an apartment, but Takemichi is just happy to see him. Hakai then asks Mitsuya if he is looking for an apartment, and he says that he is. Takemichi looks at them having fun and says that they have all matured so much. After that, Chifuyu turns to him and tells him that they should try and ask them, and that it would be a tremendous help if they had Mitsuya with them. Takemichi says that it's true, but that they can't do it, which leaves Chifuyu a bit surprised. After that, Hakai, Takemichi, and Chifuyu get on the train, and Hakai says that Mitsuya and the others are amazing, saying that they are all moving forward and that he also needs to get it together. Takemichi just smiles and tells him that he is fine the way he is right now, and that he is sure that he will make it big in the future. After that, they get off the train, and Hakai parts ways with them. Chifuyu then asks Takemichi why he didn't ask them, and says that he got to see everyone there too. Takemichi explains that seeing them all working so hard kind of made it hard to ask. Chifuyu then says that he sees and wonders who is left, but he then looks at the clock and says that it's time for his shift. He apologizes, but says that he will see him tomorrow. Takemichi follows him and sees that Chifuyu is working in a pet shop, and he says that it reminds him of how Chifuyu worked at a pet shop in the future. After that, he says that he gets it, and that they are all done with this, and no one's going to get involved with any fights now. Everything's different from when they were in junior high school. Chifuyu's dream, Mitsuya's dream, Ryohei's, Pachin, Hakai, and just everyone in Tomon's dreams. He thinks back and remember Mikey saying that he would protect them all, and Takemichi thinks that the day Tomon disbanded, he talked to Mikey about the future where everyone dies, and this makes Takemichi realize that this is the future that Mikey is protecting. He runs to a grass field and says that he can't let them get involved in this, and that he has to do it all alone. However, he thinks that he doesn't even have a single clue yet. Just then, his phone rings, and it's Draken, who asks him if he can get over right now. And Takemichi is just confused, but he goes to his motorcycle shop and says that it's been a long time. Draken greets him before saying that he fixed up the bike. He apologizes that it took him so long, but that he had to get some parts. Takemichi then understands that it's the one he got from Mikey. Draken then looks at him and tells him to give it a spin, so the two of them ride out, and Takemichi tells him that he is back in the past now. He says that Mikey has always saved him, which is why it's his turn this time. Draken, however, tells him that there's nothing they can do about him now though. He says that he can't find the right words for it, but they are all respectable people now, and Mikey left them because he chose the dark path. Telling Takemichi to leave Mikey be, as he is already different from when he was in Tomon, asking if Takemichi gets it, and that Mikey will kill him without a care. And Takemichi then thinks back to the Bonten timeline where Mikey shot him. Suddenly, Inupi appears before them, and he screams at Draken to get out of here. They are just confused, but suddenly Inupi gets thrown towards them, and Takemichi makes an emergency brake. After that, we see someone else on a bike, and it's none other than South. Takemichi wonders who that is, but Draken says that he is the Rokuhara Tandai's representative, Terano South, and suddenly they are all surrounded by a bunch of Rokuhara Tandai members. South then goes to Draken and asks him to join him. Draken just asks Inupi if he is fine, and he says that he is somehow. After that, Draken tells South that the answer's the same every time, and that he is not joining Rokuhara. Telling South that he is already retired, and that he has no intention of getting involved in their conflicts, South gets mad and asks him what he means by retired. He gets close, and before Draken can even realize it, South has already punched him in his face and sent him flying. Takemichi can't believe his eyes. Meanwhile, Inupi screams out for Draken. South then says that he will never forgive Draken if he retires, because then, why was Tomon called the strongest? Draken then gets up again, but South is right at it as he gives Draken another punch, which once again makes him fly back, and then finishes it off with a punch to the head, which makes him fall directly to the floor. Takemichi thinks that there's no way, and that this is way too one-sided, and that even if he's retired, he is still Draken after all, and he wonders if South is a monster. South then says that he came all the way to Tokyo just to crush Tomon because they share the same ideals, saying that retiring is unforgivable, and that the strongest will keep being the strongest until they get devoured, calling it the world that they live in. And here, he looks super menacing. He screams at Draken and tells him that either he works for South or he will die here, calling it his own option. He then looks back at Takemichi and calls him the former 1st Division captain and asks him why he is looking at them like this. And he goes to Takemichi and tells him that it's his turn now. Takemichi looks shocked as he thinks that he seriously got into a huge conflict right after time leaping here, and he just flinches and screams. But suddenly, one of the Rokuhara Tandai members comes flying. we then see someone in a good mood saying South's name. South tells them not to get in his way and calls them Brahman. After that, we learns that it is the Brahman number 2 and that he is also the first generation Black Dragon's vice president, who is none other than Takeyomi Akashi. He tells South that if he is going to lead people, then he should take notice of those behind him as well, and after that, he can see that a bunch of Brahman members have also come to join the fight. Takemichi in his mind just wonders what is going on, as he says that 2 of the 3 major power players, the 3 titans, are here. It then begins to rain, and South asks Brahman what they came for. Akashi just says that it's raining, and that Shin always told him that he is the #1 rain man in Japan. Takeyomi then speaks up and says that South isn't the one that they are here for, as they are after Takemichi, and that they came to scout him, which leaves him even more in awe. He asks if he is sure, and Takeyomi says that they want him. After that, someone else comes by, and it's the Rokuhara Tandai leader Kakucho, who says that they can't ignore that, and if that's what they are doing, then they are not going to negotiate. Takeyomi just calls him the brawler and asks why he is working under South, and if he switched sides after his king died. Kakucho says, "What?" and that he doesn't want to hear it from the likes of Takeyomi and asks if he forgot about Shinichiro Sano. This makes Takeyomi a bit mad, but then suddenly, the Rokuhara Tandai number 4, Kanji Mochizuki, comes by and says that they are itching to throw down just as much as they are. After that, Rokuhara Tandai number 5, Shion Madarame, comes by and says that the first generation Black Dragon's Takeyomi Akashi is telling him that he is the 9th generation Black Dragon leader. After that, the numbers 2 and 3 of Rokuhara Tandai, Rindo and Ran, come by, and they ask if they are going to start or not. Takemichi just thinks that former Tenjiku members and members from the worst generation are all here, and that Rokuhara is super bad news, and he wonders if a huge fight will break out, but he wonders why Takeyomi doesn't seem to care, but he then calls out for Senju, and we then see someone spriting to the pit. They throw their umbrella on South, who punches it away, but before he can realize it, Senju had already jumped up into the air, and they then give him a real insane kick to the head before they fall down to the floor again. They ask for their umbrella, and Takemichi gives it to them. After that, they say that they don't want to get wet. Kakucho calls them Brahman's boss, Senju Kawaragi, and we then see her who tells Brahman to kill them. Takemichi funnily calls her a twerp and asks if she is really Brahman's boss. South then looks manic as he tells Senju that he is getting a rush. After that, Shion steps forward and asks what she thinks she is doing and tells her not to step in. Senju just asks him who he is, and just when he is about to tell her, someone first grabs his shoulder before giving him a real insane punch to the face, making him fall to the floor. The man, who we learn is called Keizo Arashi, is a Brahman top executive and also a former Black Dragon guard captain, and he tells Shion that he is a disgrace to the Black Dragons, and for him to sleep forever. Takemichi wonders what he means by that, but Inupi tells him that it's Benkei from the first generation. Benkei then tells Senju that they aren't here to fight, but instead for Takemichi. Senju just says that he is too loud, and Takemichi still just wonders why they would be scouting him. Suddenly, Kakucho starts sprinting to Benkei, and he punches him, which makes him fly back, which even shocks the Brahman members. Kakucho then says that if Takemichi is coming back to the delinquent world, then it will be with them, Rokuhara Tandai, and he asks what Takemichi thinks. Takemichi just stumbles on his words, and Takeyomi then says that it's as expected of the one who's only known as the brawler, and says that they are tough. South says that if it's the strongest guys they want, then of course he would need to scout the strongest guys from Tenjiku. Takeyomi then asks someone called Waka if this gets their blood pumping, and we then see the so-called Waka standing behind Kakucho as he says that it doesn't. Kakucho right away gets back and asks Waka where he came from. Waka just tells him that he wouldn't be standing right now if he felt like killing him. And we then learn that he is also one of Brahman's top executives and a former Black Dragon Special Attack Unit captain. We then get to Takemichi, who thinks that monsters are coming out one after another. After that, Inupi tells Takemichi that those are living legends and that they are the strongest combo from the first generation Black Dragons, Waka and Benkei. Not to mention the vice president of the first generation Black Dragon, the god of war Takeyomi, explaining that these are the founding members of the first generation Black Dragons, and under the command of Shinichiro, these are the guys who led the first generation Black Dragon to become the #1 gang in Japan, and now the man commanding these living legends is the unrivaled Senju. After that, Draken screams out of nowhere, and he asks them why they are all getting each other hyped up, asking them where they left off, and tells South it's been some time since his engine has gotten warmed up, and asks if they should start this brawl. And Takemichi is just lost, which I can't blame him for. South just says that he was planning on making Draken one of them, and then going to destroy Brahman, but that they saved him time, and tells them to go and settle this right here and now. Senju says that she doesn't care about him, and that they are just here to make Takemichi one of them before taking on Toman. Draken screams at both of them, and tells them not to decide things without asking them first, and that they are not planning on doing whatever they say, and he asks Takemichi if that isn't right. Takemichi then thinks back to the Bonten timeline, and says that it's right, as he has no interest in either Rokuhara or Brahman, and that he wants to take down the leader of Kanto Manji, Mikey. Kakucho says that he sees, and that it's why he has come back to the front line, and Draken just smirks. After that, South goes to him angrily and asks him if he is insane, asking him if he is trying to interfere with the three titans, calling Takemichi a small fry, but just then, Draken comes in his way and punches away South from Takemichi, and he actually flies back by the punch. Both looks fired up, but Draken tells him that if he has got beef with Takemichi, then he has to get past him first, and tells them to get it started, the round 2. But just as they are about to go, they can hear some cops coming closer, and South tells Draken that they will have some fun the next time. Draken calls out for him, and tells him that he left everything he had back in Toman, and that he won't join Rokuhara. Takemichi just looks at him and smiles, and thinks that it's as he thought, and that Draken hasn't changed, and that his heart's always with Toman. But just then, Takeyomi goes to him, and Takemichi wonders if they knows each other. After that, Brahman declares that they are also leaving, and all of them quickly leave the scene. Draken then calls out for Inupi and Takemichi, and says that they are also leaving. After that, we see Takemichi on Draken's bike, and he apologizes for talking big back there. Draken calls him an idiot, and says that he is glad that he is still himself. Takemichi then tells Draken that he is also relieved that he is the same, but then Draken apologizes, and says that there's something that he should have told him, and he drops a bombshell by telling him that he is currently a member of Brahman. After that, they get to his bike shop, and Takemichi is left thinking to himself about what Draken just said. But that's when Inupi comes by and gives him a drink. Takemichi says that it's been a rough day, and Inupi agrees and says that it's been a huge mess. Takemichi then asks him where Draken is, and Inupi says that he is outside with some Brahman people, and that they are probably trying to come for him. Takemichi says that he will go and check, but before he can do that, Inupi screams out for him and says that he's worried about Draken. He explains that Brahman is closer to a group of adult gangsters than they are to a motorcycle gang, and that some nasty rumors follow them, and he tells Takemichi to be careful. After that, he goes outside and sees Draken pushing Takeyomi towards a wall. He tells him that he won't forgive him if he drags Takemichi into this, and to not get former Toman members involved, which is the promise the two of them made. After that, Takemichi tells him to hold on, and he drops Takeyomi. Takemichi asks them to explain what they were just talking about, and suddenly, Senju says that Draken wants to bring Mikey back, and that Brahman wants to destroy Kanto Manji, which Mikey is leading, explaining that they decided to work together since they have similar goals. Takeyomi then says his name and says that he loved the ambition that Toman had, not that they wanted to be the best in Japan, but that they wanted to create an era of delinquents, which was very Mikey-like. But this Kanto Manji gang is different, saying that at this rate, if Mikey's going to turn into a bad guy, then they will take him down, calling it Brahman's objective. Senju then says that Takemichi loftily postured in front of two major gangs that he will take down Mikey, saying that if that ambition is the real deal, then he should join Brahman, and that they welcome him. Takemichi thinks that he failed at gathering his friends together, and that he doesn't have anything else to go on, which means that this could possibly be the easiest way to take down Mikey. Draken, however, tells Senju to stop it, and that if she is planning on getting Takemichi to join, then he will be her enemy. Senju then looks furious, as she tells him that she will take him down right here. Takemichi then says Draken's name, as he thinks that nothing will change if he just sits here and does nothing, which is why he declares that he will join Brahman. Which shocks Draken, however. Takeyomi says that Brahman wants to destroy Kanto Manji, and Draken says that it's not like they want to pick a fight with Mikey. Takeyomi tells him that it's why they want him and Takemichi, who believes in Mikey from the bottom of their heart, and that if they can, then they would also like to persuade him without picking a fight. Draken just sighs and says that Takemichi is right, but that they are only part of Brahman because they have similar objectives. He tells Takemichi not to forget that, as he welcomes him into Brahman. Takemichi looks fired up, as he says that he will definitely bring Mikey back from the wrong path. Senju then speaks up and says that with this decided, she gives Takemichi her umbrella and tells him that from today, he will be her gopher and tells him to meet her at 3 tomorrow afternoon in Harajuku. Takeyomi just tells him that Senju has taken a liking to him and that he is going to be in for it. After that, we get to the next day, where we see Senju dressed casually, telling Takemichi to go, but he just wonders who she even is, so he asks her. She says that it's pretty mean and that she is Senju, of course, which leaves him stunned as he had no idea that she was a girl. Senju asks if he has got a problem with that and calls him annoying, and she then starts going towards the town to shop. They go to a bunch of different shops where we see Senju trying on different outfits as she keeps on looking through the different outfits. Takemichi says that she seems like just an ordinary cute girl and wonders if she really is the head of Brahman. After that, Takemichi asks her how she knows Takeomi, saying that if he was a part of the first generation Black Dragons, then he has got to be in his mid-20s, and Senju looks like she is around Takemichi's age, which is why he was wondering, but Senju then tells him that Takeomi is her older brother. Takemichi is surprised, but Senju says that her real name is Senju Akashi, and that her and Haruchiyo came up with the nickname Kawaragi. Takemichi asks her who Haruchiyo is, but Senju tells him that he should know him, and that he's a former Toman 5th Division deputy leader, Haruchiyo Sanzu, and Takemichi then remembers him. He asks Senju if she is close with Sanzu, and she tells him that he is her second brother, which leaves him even more surprised. But Senju gets out of the dressing room and says that they are the three mysterious siblings. Takemichi just screams at her to put on her clothes. He then asks her if Sanzu is also a part of Brahman, but she tells him that he doesn't like the fact that she is the head of Brahman, and that he doesn't like that she is the strongest, and that Takeomi endorses her, which is why he is with the Kanto Manji gang. Takemichi then thinks back to the Bonten timeline, and the guy with the pistol, and says that he knew that he had seen him somewhere before. He thinks that if he is still with Mikey in the future, then that means that Kanto Manji really is Bonten in the future. After that, they leave the store, and as they are walking, Takemichi continues his thoughts as he thinks that he is glad that he joined Brahman after all, as he has solved one mystery, and that Sanzu is surely going to be a huge key player in this, along with Brahman's leader, of course. After that, him and Senju stumbles upon an ice cream vending machine, and Takemichi says that he really likes the mint chocolate one, which Senju firstly mocks him for, but as she tries it, she's completely blown away by it as it's super good. After that, they are at the train station, and she thanks Takemichi for today, as it's been super fun, also reminding him about a Brahman meeting coming up. He then asks her how long she will keep hold of that stick for, but Senju just looks at it before asking him to go eat some mint chocolate ice cream again sometime. Takemichi smiles and says that it will be on him and that he promises. He then asks for the stick so that he can throw it away, so she throws it towards him, but just as the stick lands in his hand, he is able to see a vision of him screaming Senju's name while she is lying on the floor, crying, as she is saying that she kept her promise. He then gets back to real time, where he wonders what that vision was just now. We then see Takemichi with Draken in the city, and Takemichi is still hung up on his vision, and Draken asks him what he is spacing out for. After that, they arrive at Draken's place, where Takemichi says that it brings back some really good memories. He then goes to press the 4th floor button, but as he clicks on it, he can see a ton of blood both on his hands and also on his t-shirt. But after that, he comes back to reality and sees that nothing has happened. He starts to freak out, so Draken asks him what's the matter, but he quickly says that it's nothing, as he wonders what is going on with himself. After that, they head to his room, where he has a ton of Toman pictures, but also Emma pictures, of course. Draken sits on his bed and says that even now, Emma speaks to him in his dreams, telling him to save Mikey, which is exactly why he can't abandon him. Draken then asks how the future is for Mikey. Takemichi explains that he thinned out and that he had horrible eye bags like he wasn't sleeping, and led a criminal organization called Bonten. He said that he couldn't hold back the dark impulse inside him, but Takemichi still saved Hina, and everyone else who died is alive, as Mikey promised him 2 years ago that he would protect him, Hina, and everyone in Toman until the day they meet 12 years from now. That's the future Mikey promised, and now he is the only one who is unhappy. Draken says that he sees, and because of the dark impulse that he anticipated 2 years ago, that's the reason why he has distanced himself from them. After that, he reveals that Mikey hurt them, and now they despise Mikey. Takemichi can't believe that such a thing really happened, but Draken continues and says that he doesn't know what this dark impulse is, but they became decent people because he pushed them away. Maybe making himself hated and resented was how he sacrificed himself to keep his promise to Takemichi. Calling Mikey a dolt and saying that he has confirmed it and that what they are doing isn't wrong, and with Takemichi joining Brahman, it means that things are already different from the future he knows. Draken says that he doesn't know what's going to happen next, but he asks if Takemichi is prepared for it, and Takemichi says that he is and that they are going to get back Mikey themselves. But just then, suddenly one of the girls in the building spills some tomato juice on Takemichi. Draken says that it looks like blood, and Takemichi agrees before thinking that this is just like the vision he had a moment ago, and he wonders if this could mean that he can see the future. We then get to July 7th, 2008, where some old man asks for help. Senju says that it can't be helped, and he thanks her so much. But she then tells him that of course customers will have the rug pulled out from under them if they get involved with stuff like prostitution, and she calls it his own fault. Takeomi just slams his head and says that he was a good customer, and Senju says that she understands that not all the jobs they take will be clean. However, thinking about dirtying Brahman for trash like that pisses her off. Takeomi says that the ability to separate your emotions from the job is the difference between a kid and an adult, and that it's what Mikey does. We then get to Takemichi, who wonders if Brahman is going to hold their meeting in normal buildings like this. However, he sees a security camera and a keypad door, and thinks that it's like a secret society. He then walks in, and he sees a fight going on, and he wonders what is going on. Draken says that it's a Brahman-sponsored underground fight ring, explaining that fights happen here every night, and that rich guys watch the matches through the monitors and place their bets. By making their livelihood, these guys are building a better elite unit, and those are the super combative group of hooligans known as Brahman. Suddenly, someone screams that it's enough, and to cut the camera, and it's none other than Senju, who walks to the center, and everyone screams her name. Meanwhile, she says that they are going to begin Brahman's general meeting. She speaks up and says that introducing their newest member, and she tells Takemichi to go forward, explaining that the key person behind the Battle of August 3rd, the Bloody Halloween, the Battle on Christmas and the Kanto incident, Tokyo Manji's former legendary 1st Division captain, and the Black Dragon's final successor. He walks to Senju, and she gives him his very own unit as she welcomes him to Brahman. After that, she screams saying that the time is ripe, and that on July 14th, Brahman will attack both Kanto Manji and Rokuhara Tandai, and that the battle of the three deities begins. Takemichi then puts on his new cape and thinks that they are finally going to see Mikey. After that, we see him at home staring at the cape. He thinks that Senju is like a different person from the one he met before, and that on the day they went to the city, she seemed so childish, and he wonders what is going on in her head. Suddenly, a rock hits his window, and he looks out and sees Senju, who smiles at him and asks him to go on a date. After that, we see Takemichi saying that he came out because Senju said that she had something to talk about but asks why they are at an amusement park. Senju just says that it's because she has always wanted to come here. Takemichi then says that she brought a ton of clothes the other day and asks why she is still wearing the Brahman uniform, but she just says that it's the easiest to move around in. After that, they head into the Ferris wheel, and Takemichi just looks at her as she is having fun, wondering if she really is the person who started the War of the Three Titans, and if she's so vague that you can't tell what she is thinking. After that, they are on a roller coaster. Senju says that the War of the Three Titans is on July 14th, and that she and Takeomi will handle Rokuhara Tandai, while he and Draken will head to Kanto Manji. Senju tells Takemichi that the truth is that she wants to settle this all herself, and that she wants to defeat both Mikey and South to then become number one. The roller coaster then goes into a big drop, and Takemichi screams for his life. Meanwhile, Senju tells him that Brahman's gotten bigger, and that Takeomi has changed. Now, instead of making Brahman stronger, he thinks that making it bigger is more important. Senju explains that if they get too big, then a lot of people will surely get involved, and there will be unhappy people too, which is why she is going to settle things between them three titans before they get bigger. After that, the ride is over, and Senju spots some Tanzaku paper slips and says that they should make a wish. Senju asks him what he wrote, but he just wrote that he wanted to defeat Mikey, which Senju calls simple. Takemichi tells her not to laugh at him, but after that, Senju goes to writing her own, and it says to protect Takemichi, and she laughs as she shows him it. Takemichi just thanks her. Meanwhile, Senju tells him that she has never done this before, and she asks Takemichi if she can think of them as friends now, which is just so sweet. Takemichi tells her, "Yeah, of course," and he puts out his hand, telling her that if anything happens to her, then he will also protect her. Senju just tells him that she doesn't need that promise, as she is stronger, but she still says thanks, and they shake hands. But as they do, Takemichi gets the same vision with Senju lying down on the ground, and this time, he sees that they were in an amusement park, which they are in right now, and he starts to freak out while Senju asks him what's wrong. After that, we get to Draken, who says that it's starting to rain even though it's July. Just then, Inupi comes by and tells Draken that he heard a nasty rumor from the Rokuhara Tandai guys, and he tells Draken to call Takemichi right away. After that, we get back to the amusement park, where Senju is running from the rain. However, Takemichi thinks that in his vision she told him that she kept her promise, and this makes Takemichi realize that if that vision was a vision of the future, then it happens today. They then go to eat, and Senju asks him what's wrong as he has barely touched his food. Takemichi, however, doesn't know what to say, and Senju then says that she will be going to the bathroom. Takemichi is then alone and wonders what he should do, thinking that if the vision is true, then Senju's gonna die here today, as he was certain that there was blood coming out of her head. He then thinks that he got lost in thoughts and says that he shouldn't have taken his eyes off her, and he runs off looking for her. He wonders just what he should do and how she will get attacked. But just as he was looking for Senju, a bunch of Rokuhara Tandai guys appeared and asks if he is Takemichi, which leaves him surprised as he wonders if he might be the target. Takemichi asks them who they are, but one of them just pulls out a gun and directs it towards Takemichi, saying that South will understand. Just then, Senju screams out for him, and Takemichi thinks that she will die by protecting him, so he screams at her to stay back. The guy tells Takemichi not to move, and everyone then starts running. However, as he fires off his shot, Takemichi is the one jumping in front of Senju, and both of them fall to the floor. The man wonders if he got him and if he killed Takemichi. However, we then see that it's far from the truth, as Takemichi is very much alive and asks Senju if she is okay. Senju doesn't seem to understand a thing, but Takemichi tells her with fiery eyes that she can't die. The man then asks Takemichi who he dares to dodge, and Takemichi wonders what he should do now. The man then screams at Takemichi to die as he fires off another shot, and Takemichi closes his eyes. But that's when suddenly the gun flies out of the man's hand, and we see Draken before Takemichi, asking if he is alright. After that, we see Coco, who asks Mikey what's up. Mikey just tells him that it's pouring tonight, and that he's got a bad feeling. After that, we get back to the amusement park, where the people are starting to evacuate. Meanwhile, Draken stands tall before the Rokuhara guys, which scares them a bit, so they run away. Takemichi right away thanks Draken, but he says that it's no problem. He then kicks the gun and wonders how they dare walk around with something so dangerous. Takemichi then turns to Senju and asks her if she is okay and if she is hurt, but she says that she isn't. Takemichi then turns back to Draken and asks why he is here. Draken tells him that Inupi heard that some guys were coming after him, so Draken went to his place and heard that he was here. Draken says that they're low levels in Rokuhara, before he smiles and tells Takemichi that he should know that he is a whale just by looking at his title, and that he's sure that they were super scared when they heard that he joined Brahman. Takemichi still thinks that it doesn't justify using a gun. Draken then tells him that the War of the Three Titans probably won't end up as just a fight between a bunch of kids, saying that money and other interests are tangled up in this, and that the look in everyone's eyes has changed. They stand side by side, and Takemichi says that he wonders what's going to happen next. Draken then thinks that Mikey might have anticipated it coming to this. Takemichi, however, says that this is just between them, and that it seems like he can see a little into the future now, saying that in the future, he saw Senju dying protecting him, and that he prevented that horrible future. Senju just asks them what they are whispering about, but Takemichi tells Draken that it's all thanks to him, and that they have now changed the future. Draken just smiles, and says that it's good then. Senju then tells them that they need to get out, as things will get complicated when people get here, so she and Takemichi start to run away. But he notices that Draken isn't moving, so he asks him what's wrong. Draken just calls out for Takemichi and tells him to tell Mikey to not cause too much trouble. Takemichi asks him what he is talking about, and says that he can tell Mikey that himself. But suddenly, Draken falls to the ground and says that it's as far as he goes, and we see him having 3 bullets in his body. We then get to Draken, who wonders why there's no sound and why he is suddenly unable to move his hand, thinking that the sky is getting blurry. Takemichi, who is on his side, screams out to him, and Draken just wonders what he wants and thinks that he looks awful. Takemichi tells him that the ambulance is on its way and that Senju's asking an employee for a stretcher, and says that it's okay and that they will without a doubt save Draken. However, we can clearly see how much Takemichi's hands are trembling, and Draken then finally understands what is going on as he says that he is dying. Takemichi starts to begin to cry and asks him what he is saying, and that there's no way that he is dying, and that tomorrow it will be like nothing happened, as after all he is Draken. Draken then just says his name and tells him not to blame himself, and that this didn't happen because he came back here, but instead because of Draken's free will, telling Takemichi that the life he gave him, Draken would gladly give it for him. Takemichi looks crushed, but Draken just asks if he's got that, and Takemichi says that he does. After that, Draken explains that when he was in elementary school, he got into fights and lost a lot because he always went after older guys. After losing, he would crawl on the ground, and when he stared at the sky like this, it felt like nothing else mattered and that he felt better, explaining that Mikey doesn't know about this sky and that never losing is also a sort of burden. He then once again calls for Takemichi and says that he really loved Mikey, the way that he had to shoulder everything himself and still somehow stuck to his guns. Draken watched him through it all, which is why he wanted to do something somehow, saying that he will say one super lame thing, which is nothing other than Draken asking Takemichi to take care of Mikey. Takemichi says, "Of course," and both of them cry together. After that, we see him getting transported into the ambulance, but as that is happening, he thinks back to January the 1st, 2005, and the first sunrise of the New Year excursion. All of Toman are headed towards the beach. Draken asks Baji how the Olympus thing in Harajuku went. Baji tells him that they beat up those little punks with the first squad and asks Chifuyu if that isn't right, which he says it is. Explaining that anyone who went against Baji was stripped naked and that he beat them up, Draken tells him that he needs to be careful to not overdo it when it comes to following Baji's orders. He then turns to the twins and he asks them how it went with Nitoro in Akasaka. Nahoya says that they crushed them a long time ago, and Suya says that he was frantically trying to stop Smiley because he was overdoing it. Ryohei then smiles and says that Toman's getting bigger. Pachin says that it's true, and that it's because their boss is the strongest. Hakai then says that Mikey has been even more gruesome lately, and Mitsuya says that it's true. Draken just coldly says that the face of Toman is the invincible Mikey after all. Mitsuya says that it feels lonely when he seems a bit far away. After that, Mikey screams at them and tells them that they are not going to make the sunrise and asks if they are turtles or what. However, then they arrive, and Baji orders Hakai and Chifuyu to get something warm from the shop as they are freezing. After that, they fool around for a bit, and Chifuyu and Hakai get back with the stuff. Suddenly, Draken notices Mikey on the bridge thing, and he goes to him and asks him what's up. Mikey smiles and says that it's the sunrise. He takes his hand towards the sun and tells Draken that he is going to seize this world. Draken smiles as he agrees and says that this year they will conquer the whole country. We then get back to real time, where Draken says that his final memory is Toman after all, before he says that he is coming to Emma, and we then see this beautiful panel with Emma leading Draken to heaven. We then get to the Rokuhara Tandai headquarters, where South is beating up the ones who shot Draken before asking if they just had to go and do it. We then get to a few hours later, and in the parking lot, Senju calls out for Takemichi. However, Takemichi is just in his own mind, thinking back to when he asked the ambulance if they could save him, but they then told him that Draken was already dead. Takemichi looks lost, so Senju screams out for him, and he asks her what's up. Senju asks him what he will do now, but he has no idea. Anyway, as they are in the middle of their discussion, Takeomi comes by and asks if it is true that Draken really was killed. He asks himself how this could happen before saying that he is going to destroy Rokuhara Tandai right now. Senju asks him what he is saying. However, Takeomi just tells Benkei to assemble everyone in Brahman for an emergency meeting, and he says, "Alright." Senju then screams out for Takeomi and asks him if he is insane and if they can't do it today. Takeomi just asks her when they can then. Senju says that she doesn't know, but that they can't do it today. Takeomi asks if they are just going to back down then, and tells her that Draken was killed. He asks her if she doesn't get it, and that this is no longer a childish brawl about who's the strongest, but a battle to the death. Senju tells him that he is wrong, but Takeomi says that it was Rokuhara who made it into that. Suddenly someone speaks up and asks them what they are getting worked up about, and it's none other than South, who says that they are the ones coming to them, and that this is for Draken's requiem. He screams at them to start this Armageddon, and Takeomi tells him to bring it on, and that they are going to end this right here and now. Just then, they are able to hear a familiar exhaust sound coming from a motorcycle, and it's of course none other than Mikey, who has arrived on the battlefield, and Takemichi just looks at him in shock. However, it's obviously not only Mikey, as Kanto Manji is also behind him, and Senju says that all three gangs are here. Takemichi just says that Mikey can't fight here, but that's when Takeomi screams that this is a battle of revenge for Draken. South tells them to start this battle of the three titans, and Sanzu screams at them to kill them all, and just like that, the fight is all in action. Takeomi screams at Kanto Manji to stay out of it, as they abandon Draken, while Senju tells them to stop it and not to give in to their anger. Mikey, however, just says that he is going to stand right here and watch. Koko asks him if he isn't going to make any moves, but he says that he isn't, and that he is going to let Sanzu and the others handle it for now. Coco looks amazed and asks if he really doesn't care at all, and Mikey just asks him what he is talking about. We then get to South, who tells the former Tenjiku squad to keep the Kanto Manji gang at bay, and that Takeomi is unusually fired up today, so they are going to crush Brahman first. We then get to Takeomi, who asks South why he is smiling. Senju, however, tells him to calm down, but just then Waka comes by and stops her and tells her not to move, as this isn't a normal fight, and that he predicts more people will wind up dead, explaining that it's just how huge the death of the man called Draken affected them. Waka then says Takemichi's name and tells him to take care of their princess, and after that, both he and Benkei rush into the battlefield. We get back to Takeomi, who is once again rushing towards South. Takeomi asks him why he killed Draken and says that he wasn't even an official Brahman member, and that if he is going to kill someone, then it should be him. South just goes to him and tells him that this is war, and just when he is about to punch him, he gets blocked by Benkei, who tells him that his punches are weak for someone his size. And after that, Waka jumps up into the sky and kicks South right in his head, telling South that he and Benkei are his opponents, which just makes him smile. After that, we get to Kakucho, who is fighting a ton of guys. After that, he sees Mikey, and he wonders why he isn't making any moves. Just then, Senju comes behind him and screams at him to die. Kakucho notices him and is able to dodge the attack. Senju smiles and says that no matter how good you are at fighting, it's way easier using weapons. Just then, he hears someone behind him asking if that's true, and it's none other than Ron, who hits him with a stick and tells him that he is right. We then get to Mochizuki, who is going ham. He asks Toman what the problem is, as they are not competing at all. The Toman members just say that the Rokuhara executives, the evil generation, have strength on a whole other level, just like the rumors said. We then get back to South, and Takeomi tells both Benkei and Waka to get out of his way. However, Benkei tells him that he can chill out. South then says that Benkei and Waka just took out 100 of his men, and says that they live up to their name of the greatest duo. Other Rokuhara Tandai members even ask how it is that those two aren't the head of the gang with their insane strength. We then see Senju, who says that before the formation of the Black Dragons, these two divided all of Kanto, explaining that at the time, Kanto was divided into East and West. In West Kanto, with 600 members, was Japan's largest gang, Ragnarok. The leader, whose large body was soaked in blood as he walked through the battle's aftermath, was called Redcliffe, but who we now know was Benkei, and the 12 gangs that merged together in East Kanto to rival Ragnarok were Kodorengo. The one they followed was a man who was feared and went by the nickname White Panther, and that was of course Waka. Takemichi can't believe that those two were such a big deal. Senju then continues and says that those two fought one another to become the top. However, the one who brought them together was someone who no one knew at the time, which was of course Shinichiro, and so Kanto was made whole again. And as Takeomi always said, the strongest fighters in Japan today are without a doubt those two. We then see Benkei, who says that he wanted to save some energy for when they go up against Mikey, but that they don't have a choice. Waka just tells him not to let his guard down, as South is at Mikey's level. After that, South screams with all that he can and tells them to come at him, and they then go and rush towards him with all that they can. After that, we get into a flashback to South, who grew up in the favelas, or the slums, in Brazil. He lived with his sickly mother, and his only entertainment was an out-of-tune piano. A man called Dino, who looked after his mother, taught him how to live in the slums since he was born in a foreign country. When South was then 5 years old, he committed his first act of violence, which was to kill Dino's enemy. Dino was the city's king and the gangmaster. With the money he earned on that day, he bought his first ever new pair of shoes and learned the merits of violence. The year when South was 12 years old, he beat Dino to death while in tears, and then the tyrant South was consummated at age 12 and became the boss. Then at age 14, a rival gang raided his home, and his mother lost her life. South, who had now lost both of his parents, moved to Japan to live with his grandparents. Then, on February 24, 2006, at the Juvenile Detention Center, someone told him that the guys from the Kanto incident were coming in today. He introduces all of them and says that they were all influencers in Kanto. South just asks him if he kills them, then he can become #1 in Kanto. He then smiles and says that in a short while, he will try to build his own era in Japan. After that, we see him beating them up easily. And then, when he got out in 2007, they were all outside waiting for him, and that was the same time the Rokuhara Tandai was established. We then see him talking to Ran, and saying that he wants Tenjiku's strongest, Kakucho, in his gang. Ran just says that Kakucho won't listen to him, and that he actually hates groups, but that he was only with them because of Izana. South just laughs and tells him not to worry about it, as he is great at negotiating. After that, we see a beaten up Kikucho saying that he lost, and South just stands in front of him and smiles. We then get back to real time, where we see both Benkei and Waka being out of breath, and South asks them what the matter is, and if they are done already. Benkei just smiles and says that he didn't think that there were still monsters like this around. We then see Kikucho looking at this, and he says that the first generation Black Dragon's strongest pair, no matter how strong they may be, can't beat South, as violence loves that man. Waka and Benkei then rush towards him, and South goes in for a punch on Waka, which he dodges flawlessly, and then gives him a nasty kick right to his head, which is then right away followed up with yet another kick. But that's far from everything, as right when South thinks that it's over, that's when Benkei comes in and gives him a super punch to the head, which sends him flying, sending him even over 2 meters, and Takemichi, who is watching this, has finally realized the true power of the Black Dragon's fastest duo. After that, we get to Coco, who asks Mikey if he is sure about this, and that at this rate the fight's going to be over with Brahman coming out on top. Mikey just asks Coco if he really thinks that, which shocks him. But we then see South sitting back up, before he then gathers his strength and stands up. He then says that when he was 12 he beat the man, he called his father to death with all the love he had for him. He takes off his jacket, and they see 2 very visible bullet wounds, and he explains that when he was 14, his mother was killed in retaliation for that, and he wandered between life and death from what made these scars, but he then looks fired up as he says that this impulse doesn't stop. Takemichi hears the word impulse, which right away catches his attention, and Mikey just says that it's the dark impulse. South then asks Waka and Benkei if they think that he will get beaten by them before saying that his impulse aches and aches. As he says that, he goes in and sends multiple blows to both Waka and Benkei, which leaves them barely able to stand. South just says that only someone who loves violence can understand this beat, and asks Mikey if he also doesn't understand. Takeyomi then looks completely blown away as he calls South a monster, but that's when Senju goes forward. She apologizes to Waka and says that she can't watch anymore and that she will take out South herself. But before that, we see Kikucho, who has finally made it to Mikey, and he tells Mikey that it's not like him to sit and watch from the sidelines. Mikey just says that he was planning on watching, but here Kikucho is. Kikucho looks determined as he tells Mikey that he wanted to fight him for real just once. We then get back to Senju, and we see Takeyomi screaming at her to stop it, telling her that it's too soon for her to take on South and that the 3 of them will handle him. However, Senju tells him to be silent. She tells him that she didn't want to fight like this if she could avoid it, but if Brahman's going to be done for, then she will fight, and she then jumps towards South. But right away, South gets in a powerful blow, which sends her back, and both Takeyomi and Takemichi say her name. Senju catches herself and lands. Meanwhile, Takeyomi tells her to stop, and that Waka and Benkei were defeated like it's child's play, and that there's no way that she can beat him. Takemichi overhears this, and asks him what he means by that. Takeyomi tells him that Senju got herself included in the 3 Titans only with the backing of the first generation Black Dragons, and that Senju isn't a match for South herself, which leaves Takemichi shocked. After that, Takeyomi says that it's his fault, and that he lost control, telling her not to get caught up in this, and for her to get out, as it's still too soon. Senju just closes her eyes, and just then, South starts closing the distance and tells her to die. But right then, she opens her eyes, and she asks herself, since when did she start slacking off? Right then, her eyes start to glow, and just in time, she dodges South's attack, and she then grabs his arm, which she uses to pull herself up and kick him right in the face before, in midair, spinning around, and then giving him another nasty kick. We then get into a flashback to Takeyomi, saying that having power makes money, and asking Senju how much she thinks they could make off her, the so-called weapon. Senju then thinks that it was at that time that she realized that her power was hurting Takeyomi. After that, we get back into the fight and see Senju legit glowing with aura, while South is lying on the floor. Takemichi can't believe it, and neither can Takeyomi. After that, Senju tells Takeyomi that the leader of Brahman is her. After that, we get into yet another flashback, where we learn that the legendary first-generation Black Dragons once ruled the nation. As their vice-captain, he was feared as Takeyomi, the person whose command could decide the fate of an entire battle, and was eventually called the God of War. But he wasn't cut out for something like that. He was a super ordinary kid. His studies and sports were just average. He was just normal and nothing special. On the other hand, his childhood friend Shinichiro was a special guy who people mysteriously flocked to. But Shin never became tyrannical and was intensely kind. He was a crybaby who'd only pick fights with people stronger than himself and lose them all. He was called the weakest king. But everyone he fought liked him. Both Benkei and Waka were among those who were captivated by Shinichiro. Takeomi was just by his side, but when Shinichiro announced that they would make a gang, he chose Takeomi to be the vice captain, and because of that, he got arrogant from everyone kissing the ground that he walked on. We then see Shinichiro telling him that they would disband the Black Dragons. Takeomi asks him why, as they are the strongest, and he says that it's exactly why, as after this it's just bullying the weaklings. Then after disbanding, he continued to use the Black Dragon's influence. If he went into town, he was treated like a king and never had any trouble with money. As the years went by, he continued to use that influence until it disappeared. After 5 years had passed, his true nature came out, and he was left with an enormous debt. At this rate, his life was in danger too, but this was also when Shinichiro died, but he couldn't deal with that then, because he was dealing with the money situation. Then 5 years after that, he goes to a boxing gym and sees Senju, who says that she wants to try fighting Tokyo Manji's invincible Mikey, and that's why she is making her own gang. Benkei adds, in that her strength is no joke, and Waka says that no one can beat her at his gym either. Senju looks pumped as she says that she wants someone she can trust to take command of the gang, and she asks her big brother Takeomi if he wants to do that. Takeomi just starts to cry as he thinks that he had no money or influence. He was at rock bottom with nothing, but they accepted him for who he was, which is why he would give them everything he had for this. We then get into real time, where Takeomi asks Senju if she was holding back, asking if it was because of him, and if he had lost that much of her trust, if he made her do that, starting to cry as he says that he misjudged Brahman's principle, saying that he lost her trust, and he even lost Draken, whom he asked to join them. Senju then speaks up and says that he is wrong about that, and that everything isn't his fault, but instead her responsibility. Not being able to stop him and Draken dying was only because she was disappointing as Brahman's leader, and the only thing she can do is take this guy down. We then see that South has gotten back up and he looks wild as he says that it feels like he can get serious for once. We then get to Kikucho, who is going ham on Mikey, but he then screams at Mikey and asks him why he isn't fighting back and asks him what he came here for. Kikucho then thinks to himself that his punches have been landing on him, but it's as if they didn't affect him at all and that it's like he is fighting a ghost. Mikey then looks at his hand and says Draken's name before saying that he is already so empty inside. But after that, some dark aura starts appearing around him, and he says that he is filled with darkness, and he then looks absolutely wild as he looks right at Kikucho. After that we get to South, who says that this is the best and that he has never felt so fulfilled before, explaining that a new beat is born, a moment of bliss, and that he wants this beat to go on forever, and he is saying that while getting a kick right to his head, by the way. But just then, he gets in his own punch on Senju, which makes her fly away and starts coughing up blood. Takemichi screams out for her and calls South a monster as he pushes Senju away. South then grabs Takemichi and tells him to get out of his way. But just then, Takemichi gets another vision, but this time it's of South, who is lying on the ground and who is apparently dead. Takemichi is shocked and wonders if South will really die, and thinks how that is even possible. But just then, Kikucho gets thrown right in front of South, and it's by none other than Mikey, who walks right towards South. South just looks pumped as he asks Mikey if he finally made his move. Takeomi, however, just looks at the barely breathing Kikucho and asks Mikey what he is up to now. Senju then screams at Mikey to go away, and that this is her one-on-one match with South. Mikey then stares at Senju, and with an insane look on his face, he asks her if she wants to die first. Senju looks completely in shock as she wonders what this sinister killing intent is. After that, South charges towards Mikey and says that this is the Requiem's finale, and both of them trade a powerful blow with each other. South then looks ecstatic as he thinks that this tension is giving him goosebumps and says that they are on par in this fight and that this is exactly what he has been looking for, calling it a sanctuary for him and Mikey that no one can enter. But just as he is super happy and throwing his punches, Takemichi gets in between them and asks Mikey to stop this already. South just thinks to himself and wonders why Takemichi is stopping this. But Takemichi then says that if he keeps going any further, then South will die, and we see South looking barely alive behind Takemichi. Mikey looks pissed as he says that Takemichi only destroys things. South then thinks that he is unable to move his body, but Mikey then tells Takemichi that he will destroy him. Takemichi just thinks that it's the same as what happened with Kazutora, and that Mikey's going to become a murderer. Mikey then goes to Takemichi and tells him that he is in his way, as he then breaks his arm, which leaves him screaming out of pain. Meanwhile, Mikey goes to South and asks him how he wants to die. South doesn't know what to say, but Takemichi just screams at Mikey not to do it. However, we then see Mikey repeatedly punching South in his face until he is totally filled with only blood. Mikey gets up from him, and Takemichi runs over, and he sees that South isn't breathing. Coco just looks in total awe as Takemichi then announces that South is dead. This obviously shocks everyone, but Coco then tells everyone to listen up, saying that Senju lost to South and South lost to Mikey, and that it's Tomon's victory, and that the battle is over, and that they are all dismissed. After that, we see Ran carrying Kakucho, and he asks him if he is okay. Kakucho just asks how South is, but Ran says that who knows, and that they should get out of here for now. After that, Takeyomi speaks up and says that Mikey is still a person, and that he didn't need to go that far. But Mikey just goes forward to Takeyomi, and kicks him right in his face, which makes him fly, and Mikey tells him that he should also die. But just then, Takemichi starts running, and gets in front of him, and tells him to stop this. Mikey just looks annoyed, but Takemichi tells him that he can't do something like this, and that it's wrong. But that's when Mikey gives him a super insane punch right to the face, which also sends him flying. Coco looks at this and tells Mikey that this is enough, but Mikey just goes forward to Takemichi, and he asks him how he wants to die. He grabs Takemichi up, and Takemichi remembers when Mikey asked him that for the first time, and when he said that he was kidding afterwards. However, this time Takemichi is fully aware that there's no kidding anymore, as Mikey goes and punches him repeatedly as well. Senju screams out for Takemichi, meanwhile Takemichi is barely able to say Mikey's name, who goes in for the final punch. After that, I kid you not, we got right to the hospital, where we see Takemichi lying down on the bed. Someone by his side tells him that he is awake, and we see that it's Coco. Coco tells him that he has been unconscious for 3 days. Takemichi thinks back to when he got beat up by Mikey. However, he starts to question how he is even alive. That's when Coco explains that it was Senju who saved him, and we get a flashback to Senju stepping in between Mikey and Takemichi. Coco says that, of course, Senju was in no shape to fight, so Senju instead bowed down to Mikey and begged to end the conflict by disbanding Brahman herself. Coco then stands up and says that he better get going and tells Takemichi to be sure to grasp the aftermath of that huge battle, and then he leaves. Takemichi is then alone, lying there and thinking that Senju disbanded the entirety of Brahman to save him. He then thinks back to Mikey and that he was really about to kill him, finally realizing that he isn't the same Mikey that he once knew. Takemichi starts to close his eyes again as he wonders what he is doing. After that, we wait a little while before he once again wakes up, and then he sees Chifuyu sitting by his side. Chifuyu starts to speak as he says that he went to Draken's funeral, explaining that everything that has happened is so hard to take in and it got him pondering, wondering what is wrong with Mikey. It then gets heated as Chifuyu tells Takemichi that Draken lived in the future, so why is he gone now? He starts to cry uncontrollably as he asks Takemichi why he had to come back when things were going so well in the future. Takemichi is just silently lying there listening in as Chifuyu screams at him and tells him that it's his fault that Draken is dead. But then, right after that, he takes his hand in front of his mouth and apologizes, and he looks really embarrassed. But that's when Takemichi speaks up and tells him that it's okay, and he does admit that everything is only his fault. Chifuyu gets shocked by that, and he is then about to say something. But before that, Takemichi asks him if he can leave him alone, please. It's quiet before Chifuyu stands up and says, "Alright," but tells Takemichi that he better heal soon so that he can beat him up with all of his heart, and after that, he leaves with his fist clenched. As he walks out, he runs into Hina. Hina asks him if he is going home already and says that she has just finished replacing the flowers, but Chifuyu just continues to walk as he tells her that it's alright, which confuses her, but she then looks towards Takemichi, and at the same time, we get into his thoughts as he apologizes to Chifuyu, saying that he will never get anyone involved ever again, and that from now on, this will be a battle of his own. After that, we get to a week after the Three Deities War, and we see his friends saying goodbye to him after paying him a quick visit. Takemichi thanks them for coming, but he then has a worrying smile on his face, so Hina asks him what's wrong, but he quickly snaps back and says that it's nothing. Hina then gets up and tells him that she's going to buy some stuff and asks him if he wants anything, but he says that he is good, but after she has left, he starts to speak to himself. But after that, we see Pachin, who apologizes and gives Takemichi his condolences. Hakai then says that they heard that he took care of Draken all this time. Takemichi is just silent and nods. Angry, then also apologizes as they didn't know anything. Smiley adds on by telling Takemichi that he must be the one in the most pain right now. After that, Ryohei puts his hand on Takemichi's arm and tells him that if he needs anything, then he can of course count on them, as they will definitely lend him a helping hand. Takemichi looks firstly down before thanking them, and then looking up and giving a sort of half smile as he tells them that he is really fine. They all say that they understand, Meanwhile, Takemichi thinks that he can't let them get involved. After a while they leave, and Takemichi thanks them for checking up on him, and he gives them a smile. Once they have gone, he clenches his fist and thanks everyone for their help so far. However, he knows very well that right now, he must protect everyone on his own, and he looks super cold as he says that. After that, Hina gets back, and she asks Takemichi if everyone already left, saying that they have been visiting him even when he was unconscious for 3 days, and that they were really worried about him. She looks at him and smiles as she tells him that he has really been blessed with nice friends. We then move over to Takemichi, who looks like he has just seen a ghost, as he says that he came back and got them involved. It was because of his own selfishness that got them upset, and because of that, he has decided that he will settle things by himself. Hina just looks at him. Meanwhile, Takemichi gives her a smile and tells her that she can go home. She then calls out for him, but he says that he is fine. But just then Hina goes to hug him while telling him that he is lying. Takemichi looks shocked. Meanwhile, Hina tells him that it's okay to just cry it out, telling him that they should start with something he finds hard to do, telling him that he has a lot on his mind now, but that it's okay, and to just cry it out. We then see Takemichi starting to shake as he then starts crying with all that he can as he has streams of tears running down, and Hina, who is still hugging him, tells him that when he is in pain, he should just cry.